What's happening there, Reject Nation? We are, of course, going to check out from new Rockstars today the Easter eggs and breakdown for the trailer for Miss Marvel, a show that every individual is equally looking forward to. Mind you, go on social media, you'll find out. Anywho, if you guys leave a like, that'd be very much appreciated. Let's swing to action, peeps. Subscribe to new Rockstars if you haven't done so already.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of the trailer for Miss Marvel, introducing Kamala Khan as the new MCU hero taken directly from my high school years.
Another adventure shirt, cute.
Not today, Mephisto. I am really digging the vibes of this series, and its trailer is filled with subtle clues for what could really be going on here, so I'm gonna break it all down frame by frame. Let's go.
I do love that text.
Okay, so first off, I just want to say, I get it.
You get what?
We open with Kamala's diary, in which she doodles this pig flying into space as she wishes she could be among the stars and one day will be. This might actually be her stuffed animal that we see later on her bed. Coming from a devout Muslim family, she's not supposed to eat pork, but as we saw in the comics, she still loves to smell bacon, calling it delicious, delicious infidel meat. First appears for the 2013 Captain Marvel comics, Kamala Khan shortly after got her own solo series in 2014, where we saw a Terrigen mist bomb enveloped her and caused her to envision her heroes, Captain Marvel, Iron Man, and Captain America, and she emerged from that cocoon, emulating the appearance of her hero, Carol Danvers, but with the powers to embiggen her limbs until she realized she could just be herself and maintain that stretchy ability in her own form and appearance. Now, Terrigenesis is actually the process by which Inhumans are formed, as we saw with Quake in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but the MCU version of Kamala Khan might be going in a different direction. More on that later. Also, you'll notice among her doodles is Ant-Man versus Man-Ant, with Scott Lang having some fleshy human limbs on that segment.
Oh God,
do it.
Sexiest ant alive.
Dune crossover.
I feel like we're kind of gearing up for Ant-Man to make an appearance in one of these Marvel TV shows. If you look at Hawkeye, when they had a clear reference, and they got the arrow as a Pym particle thing. So yeah, there's a direct reference to Ant-Man. Especially totally seeing the kind of tone that this show is striking. It'd be kind of cool if we got Ant-Man to make an appearance in one of these.
Oh, absolutely.
Also, if we got something like Man-Ant in here, we've all wanted, I don't know about all of us, but a lot of us have wanted that human spider thingy.
Man-Spider.
That's what
it's always just reverse it. Man-Bat, Man-Spider, Man-Ant.
We got Man-Ant in here. I think we'd win over all the haters.
There's also a note for driving lesson today, an essay due on the 19th, scratch that, the 16th, and a reminder to include references and quotes, and a drawing of herself calling this all boring. I also like the little glimpse of Kamala's fashion, with her index fingernail painted a different color. Then we move past a world history textbook showing ancient Egypt on the cover, a corner of the world that will be explored even sooner on Moon Knight. And then we glide into Kamala's fantasy escapism in the form of her drawings, the Marvel Studios title card within her comic booky sketched out thought bubble. And then the frame itself condenses into a hand-drawn version of that, depicting how Kamala sees her whole world through the filter of her own imagination.
This does feel very Spider-Man Homecoming reminiscent, especially with the kind of aesthetic that it has here, the type of animation too, with its logos and whatnot. Even right down to Kamala Khan, her fantasizing about being out of school and doing something actually exciting that is a super heroic sense versus boring school. Like, her interests are just not in academics right now, and she wants to do something larger than life. So a lot of this feels very much connected to what they actually did tonal stylistic wise with Spider-Man Homecoming.
Now, covering footage with animated sound effect words, action lines, word bubbles, which you'll notice spill out from beyond that frame, is the kind of aesthetic that we saw in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World and in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And now to see it in the MCU like this is a really vibrant choice that not only takes us inside Kamala's mind, but hints at the way her physical powers are actually manifested from her wish fulfillment, like Wanda Maximoff.
That's cool.
Her inner
Cool way
world
to think
becomes
about it, yeah.
everyone else's physical reality. Now, Kamala's guidance counselor is Mr. Wilson. His name is likely a nod to G. Willow Wilson, who wrote these Miss Marvel comics, and is also referenced in that desk divider being labeled GWW.
If it is a reference to her, where's all the outrage?
Why'd they make him a man?
Huh?
Yeah.
Where's the
Yeah,
outrage?
it's messed up. We can't reference women writers too woke.
How am I supposed to enjoy my fandom material if it's not associated with some outrage?
You're already asking me to identify with the girl.
His office is filled with motivational posters, like that classic, "Hang in there, kitty." And then on the door, "You can totally do this." He's also got tissues on his desk for students who come in crying or leave crying. Because as we saw in
or if he wants to touch himself.
the right college, It can be a pretty stressful
Blow
thing.
your nose,
Now, this might just
anybody?
be me, but the way Kamala writes her lowercase g's in her word bubbles is just interesting. Circles connected by a straight line? I don't know. I've never seen g's written this way, but I also don't know how those Gen Zers are doing it these days. But to me, this at least looks like the middle portion of the Pym Tech logo. Circles connected by lines. Could just be another example of how Kamala is really into Ant-Man, as we saw in her diary, and specifically Ant-Man's
Someone's
Pym
gotta
Tech
be.
enabled ability to Embiggen.
I say it's true. I agree.
Okay, we get this really cool shot of the clock rotating counterclockwise as we anchor on the minute hand, flying through the day. Much like Peter Parker in the opening sequence of Spider-Man Homecoming, Kamala Khan just spends her whole school day staring at the clock, waiting for it to end. Behind her is a poster reading, "Vote Dustin for Prez, he's a very good choice." Dustin Barry was actually the set decorator / set buyer for this series, along with Ant-Man and another Ant-Man starring movie, Civil War. But look at you, you made yourself
So
into
much Ant-Man.
Dustin Barry. You go, Dustin Barry. The girl
Dustin
Zoe Zimmer
Barry.
deliberately mispronounces Kamala and disses her shirt. Zoe's actually from the Miss Marvel comics, popular girl whom Kamala ends up saving from the Hudson River, and the two become really good friends, especially with Zoe even developing a crush on Kamala's Turkish-American friend, Nakia Bahadir,
shit.
seen here alongside Bruno Corelli. Now,
Oh,
Kamala's
shit.
Avenger shirt reads, "Ladies, let's get informational," with Captain Marvel and Wasp and Valkyrie all wearing glasses. Of course, a play on Olivia Newton-John's "Let's Get Physical," I assume inspired by these
Or
women
Let's
and
Get
all the others
Information,
leading that fight
Beyonce.
in game. And yeah, Evangeline Lilly, based on your recent comments, let's definitely get informational.
Yeah, isn't the common belief that it's what you said? I thought that's the common thing.
Let's get information, from the
that-
Formation song.
Yeah, from Beyonce. Yeah,
I feel like it cuts in both ways, but I think it's Beyonce first. I think the kids are here for Queen Bee.
at least on social media, that's what everyone was saying.
Yeah,
that's
Voss.
what it is.
Get more in touch with
Twitter.
Twitter.
Kamala sees Zoe with devil horns, and I just gotta say, between this and the devil horns in No Way Home, at this point, it honestly feels like Marvel Studios is just Mephisto trolling me, to which I would say, he sees you. He sees all. In the Circle Q store, Kamala and Bruno stand beside this Captain Marvel cosplay outfit with a, looks like a paper mache mask. I think Kamala made this. Now, Bruno actually works at this location in the comics. Kamala uses it as her unofficial headquarters. Then at a party, Kamala does some true Scott Pilgrim ogling at Cameron, who looks like he just hopped out of that pool despite everyone else wearing outerwear. Maybe the guy got pushed in or jumped in on a dare or just thirst trapping all these girls.
Yeah.
In the comics,
Euphoria.
Cameron was actually hit with that same Terrigen mist that gave Kamala her powers, causing Cameron to develop an ability where he emits a bluish energy from his body and then channels electrical energy into objects that cause him to glow and explode. He was later recruited by the villain Lineage, framing him here with that blue-tinted steam over the pool could be a nod to his Terrigen mist origins and his powers.
Oh,
Nakia has
neato.
her
I
head
love
scarf
it.
into this beautiful bun, and as they stare at Cameron, notice poor Bruno off to the side, clearly feeling inadequate. No one talks about Bruno. Don't worry, kid. You got a bright future ahead of you, making YouTube videos, forcing Lin-Manuel tracks to make the viewers cringe. Also, why am I advising a fictional character? Next clip.
But you're staring out the window in your little fantasy land.
Oh, Fantasyland.
Already? Really? Come on, like,
Do I have to figure out my whole future before lunch, or is there like...
Okay, we get this great Euphoria-style shot.
Yeah, Euphoria.
swooping in on Kamala,
That's
with
what
the
Disney wants to
projector
reference
light
for
beaming
sure.
Around her, right as we hear the Weeknd's blinding lights, her head is totally casting a shadow on that screen, by the way. This is actually the same kind of lighting and framing used in WandaVision to introduce that Skrull who introduced Monica Rambeau in the movie theater projector light. And I do think we will see some Skrulls appear in this Miss Marvel series to set up the Secret Invasion series. Then the frame cuts back into
Certainly
that
hope
hand-drawn
so.
inner frame of Kamala's imagination, showing her fantasy suited up in the Captain Marvel outfit, but the one from the beginning of Endgame, the red on top, not the blue-topped one that Carol changed into in the final battle and wore in that Shang-Chi post-credit scene. So this
When does Miss Marvel take
specifically
place?
the Captain Marvel who saved Iron Man. And she strikes a classic Black Widow superhero pose. Nice. Another fantasy shows her suited up, but wearing tiara and carrying roses like the homecoming queen, and then a shot of Cameron on his car with roses, flower petals raining down
Porsche.
from nowhere. This is like Kamala's American Beauty fantasy, and I feel just as uncomfortable looking at it. Let's move on.
Let's get some plastic bag footage.
Kamala and Bruno sit on the roof of this building. That neon sign from the other side actually reads Madison. That first letter is an M there. But beneath their feet is a poster or a painting that I think reads Iron Man there.
Oh,
so
cool.
like Peter Parker's world, she's just surrounded by iconography of Iron Man and reminders of how he's dead. And again with the steam, there's just lots of mist in this trailer for a story that seemingly won't use Terrigen Mist to give Kamala Khan her powers. Who knows? Terrigen Mist may be behind all of this.
I mean, we don't know for sure if Terrigen Mist will factor into this show or not. I mean, there's this whole deal that's just happened right now where like all these shows are officially going to be on Disney Plus. It would seem that they're making these shows officially MCU canon. I think with the amount of changing of powers that they've done so far, including Terrigen Mist in some way. I mean, if they've done it in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. already, haven't seen Inhumans, I'm going to assume they did it in Inhumans. If they've done it in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. already, like you pointed out, then I feel like there's got to be a way to bring it in here. Consider that is the origin of her in the comic books.
Well, yeah, it makes me wonder if, they've done a lot to separate Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Humans certainly from the main MCU, and that all works in a multiverse, and maybe this could be the opportunity to introduce something like that to this iteration of the timeline or something. Maybe something to do with the bracelet has Terrigen crystals inside. Or maybe it's a completely different thing, but like it would be a neat thing to bring back in and incorporate, especially with, X-Men and other things on the horizon, get your variety of different origins going.
We see some shots of Kamala and her family praying at their mosque, and then Kamala and Bruno at this display of a sparkly Captain Marvel costume. The signs in her badge necklace read New Jersey Avengers. Looks like some kind of expo or convention, which might be like that A-Day celebration in the Avengers game that Kamala attends in San Francisco, where a terrorist attack overloads a Terrigen energy crystal powering that helicarrier that ends up releasing a mist that ends up giving Kamala her powers. You'll notice Kamala also wears a Captain Marvel patch on her jacket. The later shot of her on her bike shows this is a green canvas jacket, much like Carol Danvers' flight suit, and it even has that same Air Force test pilot patch on the sleeve. Kamala's mother, Muniba Khan, criticizes her costume. That may lead Kamala to defying her parents to attend that convention.
It looks like she drew it with a marker.
Really how she gets into all that trouble. Moving on.
It's not really the brown girls from Jersey City who save the world. That's a fantasy too.
Okay, interesting shots here of Kamala snooping around an attic with a flashlight where she finds his chest filled with files and in which she finds these bracelets. These glow when Kamala snaps them on, and you'll notice they have this star-burst icon on the cuff, similar to the astral iconography of the Kree that Captain Marvel emulates as her logo. Now in the reaction, I wondered if these could be the nega bands from the Captain Marvel comics given to Captain Marvel by the Kree Supreme Intelligence that ends up really trapping Captain Marvel in the negative zone. Should be a really cool way to bring in the Fantastic Four potentially.
But I also want to see that.
But based on the powers they give Kamala Khan, they could also be Quasar's quantum bands, which have similar
That's what I was
energy
thinking.
projection powers. I'll just say that the design on the cuffs suggests that these come from some kind of alien race, extraterrestrial origin. Personally, I'm getting more Kree vibes.
I'm thinking that it probably would be more likely if between the two theories that it would be Kree, considering the fact that this trailer especially is going out of its way to really show that this Miss Marvel is a major fan of Captain Marvel, considering her comic origins. If they wanted her to be along the lines of like, an obsession with Captain Marvel, honoring that, it would make more sense to get it from some type of Kree ability. She will be in the movie The Marvels as well, so line up. I think that's more likely.
Well, you could introduce some kind of conflict too, where like, if there is something sinister about them, maybe it's that thing of, oh, well, my powers persist without the bands,
We don't know whose attic this is or why Kamala came up here, but nearby are some lab coats and some lab equipment and a few dollhouse miniatures. One could see
Hank Pym's
more
attic.
parallels with Hank Pym, who has a history of shrinking down buildings to miniature size, or even with Howard Stark, who had a miniature Stark Expo in his home. But my theory is that this attic could belong to someone in Kamala's community who might be revealed as a Skrull in hiding. Remember, the Skrull Talos posing as Nick Fury in Spider-Man Far From Home hinted at a Skrull Kree shadow war currently being waged.
I thought Kree having sleeper cells was top secret information.
These bracelets could have been Kree weapons of mass destruction stolen and hidden by a Skrull on Earth, and then accidentally discovered by Kamala, thinking they were just cool additions to her cosplay, but then they accidentally power her up into a Kree-powered superhero like her hero, Captain Marvel, which would would be what draws Kamala into the Kree-Skrull conflict that Monica Rambeau is now joining the Skrull faction of, based off that WandaVision post-credit scene, which would explain how all these three come together in the Marvels next year.
Yeah,
Just my
see?
theory there.
You're right.
Well, it's the detail here. And look, when Kamala first powers up and her eyes glow purple pink, right behind her is a statue of Rocket Raccoon from that Avengers Expo. Just a little cool.
Oh,
funny
cool.
This being an Earthbound story, we are dealing with truly cosmic implications here.
What if her powers kind of coincide with the Negabands and Terrigen Mist? Like some type of activation occurs through that. Like there's common theories of perhaps the Celestials' radiation or Thanos' snap that might activate the mutation gene that people carry. So what if there's something similar with her where we actually find out down the road that she could be, I don't know, I don't want to say mutant.
But yeah, that she had that gene activated and thus just has the power now due to that.
Yeah.
And not for the lasting, connection to whatever bands she's got on.
Otherwise, that is just Green Lantern without the ring.
And when she falls backward, she passes some other cosplayers. You can see an Iron Man, 2 different Captain America shields, and then the November footage actually showed a Nebula here. But then she falls through the floor into a kind of sunken place, it looks like, but she ends up right side up, surrounded by a new crowd of figures. Who are these people? Are they just a mere reflection of the cosplayers, or are they someone else?
The Upside Down!
Technology is
I was
neurally
about to say
infused.
that.
The Supreme Intelligence takes a different form to whomever sees it. And Carol Danvers' infusion through the Kree Tahiti process left her with false memories. So if these bracelets, these cuffs are Kree tech, Kamala in this moment could be mentally projected into the memories of the Kree warrior who last wore these. These others in this purpley realm could be past Kree on the planet Hala. And then Kamala could come out of that state with those Kree powers manifesting her own inner desires, the way the Kree Supreme Intelligence, in a way, reflects something you deeply desire.
That's
And of course,
massive,
these
man.
vibrant colors and energy waves definitely match the visuals we saw for Carol Danvers' power up and Monica Rambeau passing through that radiation wall of Westview to become Photon. All three women empowered with the same kind of cosmic radiation. Okay, Kamala sitting at the table envisions some light pouring into her home through a kind of
And more
portal
fog.
and more mist. Now, I'm not sure if this is literal Terrigen mist or just mist in her mind, but mist! Her brother Amir and her
Stephen
brother
King's
Yusuf
The
check in on
Mist.
her. Her room is actually filled with Captain Marvel posters. And by the door, more art of that pig, now a unicorn. Actually, over Kamala's bed is a poster of Captain Marvel showing a specific comic. This is Jerry Dodson's cover of Earth's Mightiest
Nice.
Hero #5. Then we see the
We have a
circle
3D
cube
model
shop
of that right back there.
exploding. Oh no. And then Kamala looks at her glowing hands in this place with green walls and weapons in a case. I think this actually might be part of a trip Kamala takes to visit relatives in Pakistan, which would be where she meets the vigilante Red Dagger, Kareem. All part of a process, perhaps, to train Kamala to be more of a hero. Kamala says her powers feel cosmic, another indicator that they're coming from the same cosmic radiation source as Monica Rambeau and Carol Danvers' powers. And we see what those look like.
they look
She
like the
projects these
multiversal
discs of energy that
barriers.
she uses to close doors and then lily pad through the air. Now again, in the comics, she's supposed to be able to stretch or embiggen her limbs, but actually if you look closely at her last jump here, her arms and legs are totally stretching. This isn't like a Green Lantern energy covering her limbs. It's inside of her, stretching her body out.
Oh, cool.
Okay, the trailer only hints at this shady group of people in black SUVs. I'm wondering if they could be part of some enforcement agency like the DoD.
Hawkins
In this
left.
case, maybe an agency trying
Gotta
to
do some
Skrulls
experiments.
or Inhumans throughout society. We see another misty shot in an alley with these 4 mystery figures. There's a woman, a man, another woman, and another man. Now I wonder if this group could actually be those Kree sleeper cell agents coming back to reclaim the cuffs, or maybe some Skrull agents coming to recruit her. But actually you can see that woman on the far left appearing in the background behind Kamala in the wedding venue. So this group is going to be
catch.
an ongoing threat that goes after the Khan family, one that she has to take on in the middle of a relative's wedding. And then more shots showing Kamala's visit to Pakistan, a procession of people past a large fire, and then Kamala enters that green building that we saw earlier, following this woman who later asks if she knows what she is. This woman, according to closed caption, is named Najma. That could be the older relative who shelters Kareem and knows more about those cuffs.
Not Ajax.
Kamala and vigilante Red Dagger, Kareem,
People on
fight
Twitter.
or maybe just spar in this Pakistani train station. Notice the Urdu on the sign there. Her giant fist smashes into that drink
It's gonna be
stand, and
cool.
then cutting to a different scene where Kamala retracts the giant fist. This is at the wedding, where right after this we can see her dancing alongside Bruno. Bruno moving in. Bruno playing a pretty big role here, helping a wounded Cameron down the subway car as they both flee men in dark suits you can barely see in the car behind. So Cameron will also play a bigger role in this plot than simply being the hunky boy Kamala is into. He could be a new human like he becomes in the comics, or maybe a Skrull or a fellow Inhuman that Kamala must protect from that enforcement agency. Then a quick
Maybe
shot of
he's her
target
damsel
blown
in
off the
distress.
ground by a colorful shockwave released by Kamala as she smashes another car, and again, you can see her limbs stretched. She is totally gonna be a shapeshifter in this series.
That'd be makes me happy that she's actually shape-shifting internally.
Yeah.
The trailers, I couldn't tell. It was a little bit confusing to me at the time. It did look very Green Lantern. It looked like purely Green Lantern.
Yeah, with so many people commenting on that to dive in and see that, yeah, like there is that energy coding, but it does like actually embiggening herself. It's pretty sweet.
Armored soldiers charge down a school hallway, and then Kamala forms a shield to protect Cameron from gunfire. In the background are some school buses, suggesting this is going down outside that school. It's just so scary to see that shield breaking apart from some of the bullets, showing how Kamala is not yet mastering her powers. She still is in a lot of danger.
She's gonna get shot to death.
Okay, after the title, our final shot shows Kamala sitting on that streetlight looking out at Manhattan, perfectly recreating of the cover of Miss Marvel #5. But I just love how this compares to that earlier shot of her with her bike, staring out at the city with a sense of longing to be part of something bigger. But now, even after becoming a true superhero, she doesn't leave Jersey City for Manhattan, she stays. This is still her home. She's just looking at the city from a higher vantage point, like more of a guardian protecting her turf from any threats from the big bad
Guardian of MJ.
Folks, I am super excited for this series, and of course, New Rockstars is definitely going to be covering it when it drops on June 8th. So be sure to subscribe to New
time
Rockstars
for my birth.
all of our Marvel content. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EAVoss. You can follow New Rockstars, of course. Thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye.
Dope! I
Very
loved it.
fun and very endearing.
Thanks, Mr. Voss. You rocked our socks off, Mr. Voss boss.
Gonna be Mephisto someday.
You'll see when you're least expecting it in Midnight Suns. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Subscribe to New Rockstars. Leave a like. Last but not least, do a Rosa Para. Reason why I wanted to shout you out, Rosa, is because you know who we should really be marveling at in this world? Hard-working critics. That's right.
So many movies.
So many critics out there and not enough in the Latin community, and you are holding it down. This show deals so much with family, children, being a mother, and I gotta say that you cover as a critic so many movies about families, and there's really nothing else that I could think of in your personal life that would identify with such a purpose. I think what you got going on is really strong and probably the most important thing in your life. As you can see in this trailer too, like Kamala is just trying to like find a way to be something more while kind of losing sight of her family along the way. And so with that in mind, thinking about you and how you have a family, is that one day your kids will be critics.
That's right.
And they will be great reviewers, and they will outperform you.
Rosa Tomatoes.
This is called subverting. Subversion.
Subverting.